3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Good evening. It's Monday again already. Where has that week gone? Welcome along to Reading the Signs with me, Comedy John Ryan, and my pals from the world of comedy, showbiz, entertainment, and anywhere else I can find them, really. Every week we talk about mental health, mental wellness, what we do, why we do it, how we deal with the good times, the bad times. We want you to help as well. Let us have your top tips for well-being. Let us know you're there by putting comments in the box. Do give us a like on YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook. Just tell your friends, really. And subscribe, of course. Very important that you subscribe at this day and age. Quick mention to Lost Boys UK for this fantastic theme tune. Have a look at my website, happytohelpyou.com. We've got great guests. We've got a great show. We've got a great audience. Let's get to it. Good evening. It's Monday. Wow, it's come around really quick, isn't it? Let's be honest. It doesn't seem that long ago that it was Monday. That's because it was Monday last week. Let's be honest. It happens every week. I don't know why it catches me by surprise every time. Probably something to do with my intellect. Anyway, how's your week been? What have you been up to? How's your day been? What have you been up to? We start with the weather. As always, I like to kick off by telling people what a horrible day it's been. Blue skies, 31 degrees. Yuck. But for you, blue skies, 31 degrees may well be great. You may like it. Just bear that in mind when we're talking about well-being, wellness, mental health. Everyone may be seeing the same thing, but experiencing it in a different way. Just because I don't like the sunshine doesn't mean it's not right for you. Something to have a little think about. So since last week, I've had a very action-packed week, as always. I did a comedy course that I hosted as a favour. And it turned out all the students were teenagers who had English as a second language, Germans, French, Italian, Spanish. And they basically were a load of foreign language students who were teenagers. So they started the evening desperately flirting with each other, trying to get each other's attention. And then once we worked out that we're all the same, teenagers are all the same the world over, found our common ground, we had the best laugh. It was really good fun. We worked on confidence, public speaking for both boys and girls. And it was really, really good fun, which then lined me up to go to Germany for 3 days where I did some gigs. And I can't tell you how impressed I was with the fact that I did a 3.5-hour train journey in Germany that arrived when it should, left when it should, got me where it was meant to. And it's like £7. Unbelievable. So I guess part of my thinking this week has been about how brilliant it is if we have an open mind to people from other cultures, other countries, other nationalities. What these teenagers had in common with the German people I met was that they had just a slightly different thought process, just a slightly different way of looking at things. For example, the kids, I didn't try any banter or put downs or anything like that with them because they found it quite disrespectful. We talked about why British kids feel so passionately about disrespect and dissing, and yet then continue to talk to each other without any respect whatsoever. And again, when I travelled through Germany, I met so many people who would not put their feet up on the train seat, or when the guard got on, they said good morning. And it's just a really nice experience, just being in another country. And that's all I can say. Off to Portugal and Spain this week, Wednesday, so that could be a really good one. But as always, do let us know you're there. Robert, straight on it. Hello, mate. Rob, nice of you to join us. Really appreciate your support every week, mate. You always come along. Got a great guest for you this week as well, Rob. You're going to really love him. Tonight's guest, Nick Wilty, I first met in 1999. I was a new comedian. I'd only done about 2 or 3 gigs. And we went and watched a show that he performed at the Comedy Cafe. And then afterwards, he invited everyone to go along to the local pizza restaurant. So, we just had pizza. I realised, actually, this was probably the first professional comedian I'd ever spent time with. And he wasn't a knobhead. That's the only way I can explain it. I was always under the impression that comics were just aloof, arrogant, and distant, in some way detached from normality. And this guy proved it all wrong over the course of one pizza. He was open, he was welcoming, he was supportive. And whenever I gigged with him, I always got a little bit of a buzz because it was like being with one of the big boys. But he always treated me with fairness and respect. And over the years, as I've got to know him, I've appreciated very strongly where he comes from, where he's at, but most importantly, where he is. Because one of the things I've always respected about Nick is the fact that you know when he's happy, you know when he's sad, because he tells you he's like a proper bloke. He's ex-military. He's also travelled the world. He's got a wealth of stories and a wealth of interesting anecdotes and stuff. But then again, he might not be bothered. He might just want to chat about the weather because he's just a bloke. In the words of the great Harry Redknapp, he would say, Nick Wilty, this boy, he's got a lot. He's good at all. He can play up front, play at the back, play in the middle. He can pass it, edit, stroke it. He should be playing for England. Like many comics that we've had on over the last 2 years, Nick will go unnoticed when he's out and about. But I would say, pound for pound, is as good as any of the other comedians I've ever worked with. And I hope that you enjoy his company as much as I always have. So with that in mind, let's get the little welcome going to welcome onto this. Mr. Nicholas Wilty.
Yeah.
What a great introduction.
Well, that was a bit over the top, wasn't it? A bit
Get
over
out of
the
it,
top.
mate. You're a lovely bloke. You're a
Oh,
good
well,
man.
thank you.
And we're
Cheers, John.
talking in a lighthouse by the look of things.
I've just bought a camper van, actually. It's parked outside my house. I was going to go and be adventurous, park up on the coast, but internet's not so good up there.
You're such a traveller. I've got a camper van I want to travel, but it's just in front of my house. So I'll just keep it.
I've done 3,000 miles this month in it, gig. Yeah. I bought it 5 weeks ago, and the first thing we did was a festival, and then straight down to Devon and Dorset and Somerset, and drove past the gig that I'll be going back to 2 days later. So I dropped the wife back home and then drove back to Southampton to do a gig, So,
Fantastic, man.
Yeah, it's great fun.
My dad always had camper vans and caravanettes and stuff.
Yeah,
so...
my dad had Volkswagens. All of my childhood, we used to go away the whole 6 weeks of school holidays, summer holidays, and drive until half the money run out and then come back by a different route. That's what we did every year till I was about 16. And all these years I've always wanted a camper van, but I don't know, it's not that I don't like Volkswagens, but I just I wanted something that's more like a caravan that you can drive, and that's it. That's what I got.
And is it accessible? Is it does it work? And
it does everything you could wish it for, John. It's narrow. It's built on a Citroen Berlingo, so it's very narrow. You get down the country streets where I live in Whitstable and the countryside around here, and it'll park anywhere, and it blacks out, so nobody knows you're staying when you're outside their house.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we just give a couple of quick little shout outs. Steve Troop here. You would love Steve Troop. He's one of our regular listeners.
Hello, Steve.
Right, Steve's always angling for work. I've got to tell you that. Right, he's always angling. He's an absolute inspirational man. He hates me saying that, but he is.
And a perfect name here. Had he been a soldier, Troop good. I mean, you couldn't wish for more, could you?
Can't make it up, can you? But he has gone from being homeless to now being married with a kid. He's got his own little company. He does security stuff, and every week he offers his services. Apparently, ex-military, more likely to get kidnapped or attacked. You're going to need security. He's going to offer you close quarter troop protection. But it's just nice to have. There's just a couple of people that take their time out, and I really do appreciate their support. We've got Martin Cox, good man, lovely guy, who I've travelled with a lot. A bit like yourself, he's seen it, done it, but just keeps that enthusiasm going. And that's something that people really don't always appreciate. Like you got to the top of your game, and then what? Well, you got to stay there, ain't you? You've got to somehow...
Well, that's a bit I've had trouble with.
Yeah, but, it's not... It doesn't seem to have dulled you. Just a quick mention to Alan Finnegan up in Liverpool, who we had on as a guest. So if you know Alan, he's a minister of the cloth. But he's a bloke.
Oh.
He only took the job because no one else was going to do it.
Well, can I just interject there and just say something very strange? But true, about 25 years ago on TV, I was interviewing Robbie Williams, and he had just married a couple out in LA. And I said, "What do you mean married him?" He said, "I became a vicar overnight," and told me how to do it. And I became a reverend, and I still am. And I did a wedding last year.
Wow.
Yeah, proper. I'm not religious, so it was a non-religious wedding. It was humanitarian, but it was brilliant, actually. And do you know there's a comedian who is a real vicar called Ravi Holy, which, strangely enough, is his real
There's not many jobs you're going to get that name, is there, really?
Well, exactly. He's stuck, isn't he? Yeah. But he's a comedian as well. He's a good one. But I said to him, "Can I borrow a dog collar?" And I went over to his vicarage over in Kent, near Canterbury. And he said, "We may as well go the whole hog." And he lent me the entire outfit, you know, the scarves, the cassocks, and the whole works, you know. So I did a wedding for my friends down in Gloucester. It was rather fun, actually.
But wouldn't it, some of the other guests, would they not have realised that you can do this? And just what it's going to be?
Yeah, some of them didn't twig it at all. They thought, "There's a strange vicar. He hasn't mentioned God yet." But
I once done a CSE tour and with the military, and I've done so many of them that I've got really good terms with the guys who worked at the base that they used to come back to, and they had I think there might have been Staffords that were coming through, and for a giggle they gave me a Padres t-shirt.
Yeah,
and I did the address,
right.
But I literally came out and spoke very, very solemnly, and I had in my hands a lot of papers like this, and I was right, guys. Now, can I have your attention, please? Now, no talking. And they were like, "Whoa!" So yeah, and I did that. I'm just gonna reply to some of the emails I received and wasn't able to message back while you were on tour. First of all, yes, this sort of thing happens. You're in close proximity. Doesn't mean you're going to be like this for life. Don't worry. Just put it down to experience. And then the next one, I'll go, "That's disgusting and depraved. You can take a dog for a walk, but no more than that." And they slowly started to dawn on them.
Right, yeah.
But, mate, I got about... And then it got really uncomfortable because they're squaddies, they knew that I was winding them up, but weren't going to give in and let me know.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to keep it going. They had to keep it going.
Well, I'll tell you a strange story I've never told anybody. After the Falklands War, I was sent to Berlin and I was quite depressed. I wanted more action and there was nothing happening in Berlin. And the Sergeant Major got me in his room one day and he said, "I know what's missing from your life, Jesus." And I said, "No, you're absolutely wrong. You're absolutely wrong." And he looked at me and I registered as an atheist, which is why I always did Christmas and Easter on guard duty. But he said, "That's what's missing from your life." So he sent me on a Catholic retreat, which meant I could leave Berlin. And I drove across with a Catholic priest called Father Pat O'Brien, who's a lovely fella. And by the time we got there, he said, "Do you want to do a sermon?" I said, "Of course I do. Yeah, I'll do a sermon for you." I said, "I won't blaspheme." He said, "Don't blaspheme or swear, but I'd love to hear your version of why you don't believe in God." And I did a sermon in a church in Brunswick in West Germany for about an hour. You know, it went down very well, actually. I got on very well with Father.
Very, very impressive. We've got to let him in. Stevie Troop, they've got a few dog collars because he fosters dogs. You know, what can I do with this man? What can I do with him, Nick? Every week you're sending me in jokes. every week. Look, you got a little bit of fan mail there from a blast from the past. King of Spain. Remember Griff?
Oh, Griffey, yeah, Griffey. How's he? I do keep in contact with him a little bit. He sends me messages now and again, but yeah. What's he up to? Is that in Spain still? Or?
No, he's just made a really good, amazing documentary, which is out in September, I think. Which reminds me, I should get in touch with you, Chris. Sorry, mate. I never got back to you. But anyway, let's get to the start. Where are you in the family? You got brothers, sisters?
I had an older brother. He died a few years ago of cancer. He died at 55, and I'm 63 now, so I'm the oldest in the family. I've got a brother 8 months younger than me. Very rich, very successful, but hard to deal with. I mean, I love him, but he's, on the borderline gangster. He owns hundreds of properties and he quite likes collecting rent. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then I've got a younger brother than that, who's 12 years younger than me, who's the sweetest kid you could wish for. He's a carpenter and he's got a beautiful girlfriend and they've got God knows how many children and grandchildren, just endless amounts. You know, there's dozens of them. And he lives down in Hastings. He's a very happy man. He's got an uncomplicated life. He just loves working hard and being with his family, you know.
Good. Yeah, mate. Everyone's cracking it in their own ways. As a kid then, Were you like always cracking jokes? Were you the funny one? Were you the wise one, the sensible one, or?
I think I was, the old thing about, they always say comedians, they make the bullies laugh so they don't get beaten up. Well, I wasn't like that. I got threatened by a bully once and I knocked him out and made everybody laugh about the fact I knocked him out, So I had no nerves. That was the thing as a kid. I didn't get stressed about things. I just thought, it is what it is, Get picked on by a bloke in the year above me. There's no point in taking it. Otherwise, I'll be a fool in front of my other brothers. So I hit him once, knocked him out, and that was it. Everyone never touched me after that. But no, I think I was funny amongst my mates, but I've never been a show-off. I was never one who, wants to put his hand up and say something funny. I would say it to my mates afterwards, in the playground or down a pub or wherever we went in those days.
Were you academic? Were you bright? Because you always strike me as like a bit of a deep thinker, really. You're not one of these like flash show-offy.
Well, I've got the double whammy of, I think I'm quite bright. I mean, certainly when I joined the army, they rated me as a very high IQ, but I'm dyslexic as well, so I couldn't put it down on paper, which was strange in the army because I was able to learn things like Morse code because I don't need to know what it says. I just write down what the sound is. The moment I look at words, I see them. I miss out all the little bits. If I'm writing a letter, I think I've done it, but I don't put ifs, ats. All them ones. I don't see little words. I only see big words. But yeah, I mean, certainly the army thought I was bright. The IQ test showed that I was, could have been an officer if I had the right accent or whatever.
Before we go on to that, at school though, were you academic? Were you?
No, I was only interested in things that were good for me. Geography mainly, because I just wanted to travel the world. History, because that involved going to places that I was very interested in. The pyramids and Angkor Wat, all these places in my head. I must go there one day. So I wanted to know all the history of them. And art, which, come back to bounce back 40 years after I stopped doing it. But
Brilliant. So when you left school, did you go straight into the army or?
No. I had a road accident 10 days after I left school. I was in a motorbike crash. A car hit me. And the compensation was $3,500, which was like a year's wage to anybody in 1975. So instead of spending it wisely, I bought Freddie Laker had just started this thing called the Sky Train to New York, 59 quid one way. Yeah, Freddie Laker. So I was on a second ever flight from London to New York for 59 quid.
Wow.
I went to the embassy. In those days, you could go to the American embassy. I got an indefinite visa, multiple entry, anytime I liked, there and then went to the airport and bought my ticket at the airport. And then my dad's going, "You can't just fly to New York." I said, "I am, Dad." And they called the flight. I said, "Dad, I'm off to New York." He said, "You can't." I said, "Dad, I'm off." And my little brother, was about 5 at the time, was screaming his head off, going, "They'll never let you out." I said, "No, it's just holiday. New York's just another city, isn't it? You can only get mugged in one place at a time."
Where were you brought
up? Well, born in Surrey, near Croydon, but at the age of about 6, we moved to Kent. I always around Dartford, that sort of area, Dartford, Crayford, Barnhurst, all that sort of south, like on the borders of London, but never proper London. We had red buses, came as far as our little town, and then it was all green buses after that, So, yeah, edge of London.
It's interesting. Sorry, I've just Mike Smashing McGrain up in.
Oh,
South
brilliant! Oh, I love that bloke.
He's said you hello again. Comes along as a listener all the time. Mick, hope you're good, mate. Hope everything's working for you.
Yeah.
So you go to New York and then
Well, I went to New York and I jumped.
Was that your first trip out of the country?
No. We used to go abroad every year in the Volkswagen, for 6 weeks every year. So I've been all around Europe by the time I was, a teenager. But New York was me first on my own, and I did all around America, and ran out of money. But didn't want to go home, so I started donating blood and doing stuff like that to earn a bit of money. And I went back to Mexico. I really liked Mexico when I was down there, on this bus trip. It was like a hippie bus, called Trek America, a company called Trek America, where everybody had to be between the ages of 18 and I think it was 30 or something. And I was the youngest on there. I wasn't even 18 at that point. But, I just I loved it. Went all round America, into Canada a little bit.
What was it that gripped you like that, grabbed you like that? What was the...
Well, all I ever wanted was to travel. All I ever wanted. I mean, I remember when I was I think 11 or 11. I think it was my birthday. I was in Germany on the Rhine, and stood there talking to my dad. And this would be sort of 1969, something like that. And there was this hearse went past that was painted up in psychedelic colours, full of hippies smoking joints out the window. And at that moment, my dad said, "You're 11 years old, son. What do you think you'll be doing when you're 21?" I said, "I want one of them, Dad. That's what I want to do. I want to go around the world with a load of hippies and all these beautiful girls smoking. That's what I wanted."
Brilliant. Not much of an ambition. Do you know what I mean? A boy's got to start. A boy's got to start somewhere else.
I never thought about work at all. I knew I'd have to work, but that didn't matter to me. It was where I had to work. You know what I mean? I always thought if I've got to work somewhere, might as well somewhere tropical or somewhere exotic. You know, what's the point of being a labourer in London when you'd be a labourer in Honolulu or Barcelona? You know what I mean? That's how I always thought of it.
No, I'm with you on that. I think that sometimes you travel, it broadens your mind, but it's because you're experiencing different things. Just want to give a quick little mention to Adrian down in Cardiff coming along. Thanks for coming along, mate. And Mick, it's you're more than welcome, mate. Everyone is very supportive when people have troubles, Nick. Sometimes.
Yeah, I know you've been through a tough time, Mick, but you're always in the thoughts, mate. I know you've tough time after your dad died, but love you to bits, mate. Hope to catch up with you soon.
And it's about how we start conversations. You talked about the bully. Steve said about he was bullied through secondary school. And he's big. He's a big lump of a lad, is Steve. And if there's any of our younger audience members, big and lump, these are positive terms, not necessarily insults. But he dealt with a bully. And again, you talking about it just has got him going, mate.
Well, it happened on my first day in the army. We had to go to a place called Sutton Coldfield, where you don't know where you're going to be at this point. You've just been accepted for the army, and they give you a uniform. And I didn't even understand the basic things. The sergeant shouted out, "Stand at ease," and I just sort of relaxed, like I was watching a football game or something. And he was shouting at me, and the bloke in front of me was Aussie, and he was about 6'3". He'd already been in the Australian Army and kicked out for fighting. And he went, "I'm having you, sunshine." And I went, "Oh yeah, what barracks you in, mate?" And he told me which barracks. So I said, "See you at 6 o'clock." And I went there at 5 to 6 and beat him up while he was asleep. And I never got bullied. Never got bullied again in the army. Word got round that I was psychotic, you know.
That's just one of the most unmotivational, inspirational things on the show. Well, 6 o'clock, I got at 5 to beat him up when he was asleep.
I could never have fought the man. He was, an enormous guy.
Brilliant.
He was, 5 years older than me. He'd been in the Australian Army.
Seen it, done it.
So, at 6 o'clock we agreed to meet. So I got to his barracks and I said, "Where's Sandy, the big Aussie bloke?" He went, "Oh, he's asleep over there." "Oh, is he now?" So I went over and just started pummeling him, and that was it. I never got touched after that. All through the army, they all thought, "Watch out for that Pearson. He's weird. He can turn."
Watch him.
I couldn't, but only that once. It's the only time I ever had to do it.
His watch is 5 minutes fast. You want to watch him? So let's get to what made you join the army. What was it? What regiment did you go into?
Travel. I tried everything else first. I tried to join the Merchant Navy, but by the time I got back from America, I was coming up 19, and their apprenticeships stopped at 17, so I couldn't do that. I even went for an interview once as one of those air stewards, and I just didn't fit in. I wasn't sort of camp and, well spoken and polite, so I missed that one out. And in the end, my brother Dave, we were walking down the High Street in Crayford, and he pushed me in this Army Careers office, and this sergeant behind there said, "Can I help you?" And my brother said, "Yeah, my brother Nick wants to join the army." And I just went, "Yeah, if it involves travel." And he went, "Oh, yeah, of course it will." And the funny thing is, John, I was drunk and I failed the test so badly. He said, "All we can offer you is I've got a pioneer course, digging holes." And I went, "Nah. I'll come back tomorrow when I'm sober, mate. I'm better than that." And I came back next day, and before I knew it, I went to Woolwich, signed this thing, the Queen's Sixpence they call it, and I was in the army. Didn't know what I was going to do yet, but I knew that it won't be digging holes. It's got to be travel. Otherwise, I would have just ran away or bought myself out. If I'm not travelling, what's the point,
And then, obviously, you served in the Falklands.
I did, yeah.
About that, mate?
I am nowadays, I am, I've sorted it out. I went back in 2007, John. Best thing I ever did. for 25 years, I had all these sort of demons that other people spotted, not me. And I was on holiday with Mark Thomas, you know, the comedian Mark Thomas. We're out in Egypt, and 10 days, him and his wife Jenny, but me and Mark were going out having adventures, you know, camel rides and all that, like in the desert. And he said to me, we had a meal in this posh restaurant on the last day in Cairo, and he said, Nick, will you talk to somebody about your PTSD? I said, what are you on about? He said, you've got PTSD, Nick. I don't know what you've been up to in your life, but something happened to you every night at sunset. You said the weirdest things, and I said, I don't know what you're on about, Mark. He said, Nick, I'm going to have to point this out. And he got out this piece of paper and he'd written down what I said every night at sunset. Wow. And it all made sense then, yeah. Every time the sun was going down, I wasn't aware I was saying it, but I'd go, right, we need to get down low because there's no tree line, you know, or we're out in Saqqara, out in the middle of the desert, there's absolutely nothing there. And at sunset, I said, start digging, mate. You know, we need somewhere to get below the skyline. And of course, in the Falklands, all the war pretty much started at sunset, because during the day, both sides are sort of eating, drinking, maybe reconnaissance, but you're not marching, you're not shooting bullets at each other. It all happens at sunset. So for me, I didn't know it, but
was you there at sunset? Or was you there 5 minutes early, mate? What was
5 minutes early? Always.
What was that like though? Was it just like, because I was very young at the time, so for any younger kind of listeners, we didn't. Most of us, if we're honest, we didn't know the Falklands were. There was just on the news some scrap metal merchants landed on an island.
Well, this is where this travel thing comes in for me, because I'd already been in Central America a little bit when I was 18. I knew exactly where it was, and I thought, God, that's off the coast of Argentina. Oh, that's brilliant. Well, and I volunteered. I was actually on leave. I'd just come back from Arctic survival in Norway with the Marines, and I was, you know, as fit as I was ever going to be. And I rang up my officer on leave and said, his name was Mr. Couch, and I said, Mr. Couch, is anybody going to go to this thing that the Argentines are threatening? And he said, oh, I doubt it very much. I said, but if they do, could I go? He said, yeah, it won't happen. But I said, I'd like to go because I know where it is. It's the cold part of South America, but it's very near Patagonia, which I'd always want to go to. And I thought if I got leave, if the war was over, we'd get given leave, and I got up to Rio. So to me, that was my motivation. I didn't think it would be a war. I really didn't think that. I thought they'd surrender by the time we got there, to be honest.
For a lot of guys who join the military, I think it's about serving Queen and country, protecting, being part of a long tradition. I don't think I've ever met anyone whose motivation for signing up to go to war was because you get holiday and you can pop over to, to Rio.
I mean, I haven't got it on me, but in my house there's a report I got from when you leave the army, you get the sort of end of term report, and now it reads funny to me because it says Signum and Pearson, which is, you know, what I was in the army, served in many theatres, right, and took advantage of his overseas trips to visit surrounding countries. So to me, I didn't get, you know, you send me to Belize, I'll do what you need to do in Belize, but I want to go into Guatemala and Mexico, so that's what I was using it for. And they used to have this white Land Rover you could rent a weekend free of charge from the army, and you have to wear civilian clothes. And I'd just say, right, anyone up for Acapulco? And you'd be amazed how many people go, nah, what are you on about? I said, Acapulco's only 800 miles away. I mean, we could drive all the way through Mexico, have our leave in Acapulco. Why the hell would you want to be stuck in camp here, you know? So I did that. I mean, I literally thought of the Falklands. I thought, oh, that's really near South America. I'll go to Cape Horn, you know, up to Rio if I get any leave. I'll go and look at the Pampas, Gauchos. I mean, I really looking forward to it, but I didn't think there'd be a war, you see. It was only once we got at sea and they started killing me mates. I thought, oh, fuck. Oh, this is backfired, isn't it?
And weren't you on one of the? Was it one of the ships that got attacked? Or?
No, I should have been on Sir Galahad.
That's right, you should have been.
But I failed I failed my driving test.
That's
I've been driving for years, but of course I've got all bad habits. But I've been driving since I was about 14, so I failed my test. So when it came to deployment down there, we literally got down to Devonport and they divided up people, and my corporal, Jeff Rance, went on Sir Galahad to look after the vehicle instead of me, and his support sort of got burnt, you know. So that caused a lot of issues over the years for me, you know, guilt and survivor issues and whatever, because I should have, you know, somebody asked me quite recently, actually, when did I learn to actually drive? I was 46, John, 46.
Wow.
After I'd been back to the Falklands, not coincidence, because I associated passing my test. Had I passed my test, I would have been the one on Sir Galahad that got burnt or dead. So for years, I had no answer. Why don't you drive a car? I prefer going by train, but it was, subconsciously, I'm sure that's what it was, that I associated passing your test with being dead next day, you know. Now I don't see it that way, you know.
I always remember when you came and done that day for me down at Bulford with
And
the young,
Salisbury, yeah.
and you were telling the guys about the whole experience, and they just couldn't get their heads around the fact that you didn't have satellites, IT, you didn't, you know, you was literally
Didn't have nothing.
Waving flags and
the Morski strapped to your knee, and in what should have happened is a little thing called Klansman radio on your back, but because they're all on Sir Galahad. So when we were stood there in Fitzroy, no one knew what to do with us, you know. We couldn't do our job because all our equipment was on there. All we had was our weapons, ammunition, and what we could carry. And this Marine sergeant said, right, you lot take the airfield. So that's what we did. We were on this 17-mile yomp. Nothing like the other guys did, you know. Marines and Paras had to do 87 miles all the way across the country. We only had to go from Fitzroy up to the airport. But 17 miles carrying your own weight on your back, that was no fun at all, to be honest, you know. But I commandeered an amphibious Volkswagen from the Arges, and though I didn't officially drive, I said, jump in, lads. Had no brakes, unfortunately, so to slow down, you had to go slightly uphill and take it out of gear, and it rolled back down. But that saved us about 6 or 7 miles, you know. But then there's a minefield, and you know.
So for anyone just tuning in, welcome along to Reading the Signs with me, John Ryan. This week, my guest is the fantastic Nick Roy, who's I just could listen to you. I remember we went to the Isle of Man, and although you did manage to sneak off to the shops rather a lot, to buy stuff, I just was fascinated by the matter of fact
details.
Mean,
John?
Well, you know, like I'm like, right, I'm not spending anything. All right, I'm not going to spend anything either. Then I go to the bar, get us a beer, come back, you're gone, and you're back 10 minutes later, you bought a suit.
Oh yeah,
I just remember the kind of matter of fact way you'd go. Yeah, we kind of had to watch jets, and people getting shot. But and I don't know people who've been to war at that stage. I didn't, you know, and it's fascinating. If anyone listening's got any questions, and you're happy to take
it's easy. It's easier now looking back.
Yeah.
But as I said, for 25 years, I didn't talk about it. You know, it wasn't something that I could get my head round. You know, when, you know, I recently went down to the Borelli and the Tree place. They did a dedication to the Falklands. I went there.
Yeah.
And I just fitted in, you know. I was talking to Chris Keeble from the Parachute Regiment, who recognised me, thought we were in the Falklands together, and I was in Blees with him. And there was a point he didn't have an official invite. So these serving soldiers who were like 19 or something wouldn't let him in. And I went, that's Colonel Keeble. He's a hero, that man. Let him in or I'll fucking punch you. Oh, sorry. So I didn't mean to do that. But, you know, these guys had no idea who he was. And he was one of the most important people throughout the whole war. He's the man who took Goose Green, you know, outnumbered by about 5 or 6 to 1. And he took Goose Green. And they weren't going to let him in the Arboretum because he hadn't got an official invite, you know. And I thought that was terrible, you know.
It's just, I guess that's the whole thing about the shallow nature or the temporary nature, I guess, of
it occurs to me now and again that I suppose in the 60s, 70s, you know, my dad did national service like everyone else did, you know, and occasionally he'd want to go and watch the old boys march on the Cenotaph, and I'll be watching it. It's 20 years later, get over it, boys. You know, I couldn't see how that, you come out all right, didn't you? What are you worried about? And there it is 40 years later, and it's still on my mind. You know, this van is called Stanley, you know.
Oh, wow.
I've got this with my army pension from the Falklands.
Well, if you're okay, I remember
I'm okay.
When you found out about the van, because you weren't like you was expecting it or you knew it was coming.
No.
And that was a genuinely beautiful thing when they you're like a small child when you found out you got it.
Yeah. Well, I won't tell you the whole story, but you know this is true. I wanted to go to Ukraine as a war artist. That was what started the motivation to get a van. And what I was looking for was something pretty much like I've got now, a small, obviously a camper van, definitely not military, you know, and I was going to fill it up with my artwork and paint and whatever. And I thought it'd be the simplest thing, you know, I'll just drive over the border into Ukraine. I've got friends in Poland right on the border there, and I'll have a base if I need it to go back to. And anyway, the Imperial War Museum warned me off. They said, no. We're not at war with Russia. You're an ex-soldier. You'll be on a database somewhere. You know, you'll be arrested as a mercenary. And I didn't take it on board. And then I spoke to a mate of mine from Berlin. We served together in end of 82, beginning of 83. And he said, Nick, every time we cross into East Germany, the Russians took photographs of us. And there'd be a picture. You might not think you've changed, but on the database, you got the same features. You're in uniform. They know what regiment you're in. They will say, there's a mercenary or a spy, not an artist. And that's when it dawned on me, oh, my God, I can't be doing that. And to be honest, the one thing I regret about the whole scenario is that I didn't tell my wife this was going on. I just said, wouldn't it be great to have a van? And then she sussed me out one day. And, you know, you've met my wife. She's quite...
Oh, yeah.
She's a tough lady.
She's the best partner on the circuit. Best partner, obviously. Best partner on the circuit.
Yeah. She's great.
And, oh, mate, and you two are well made, well matched. I wanted to just ask, you know, like, before we get onto your painting, which is just another show in itself, one of the greatest achievements of your life, I think, has to be the fact that you convinced so many ufologists that you had sighted UFOs and had footage. Yeah. I'm going to put the link on my Facebook page to watch. Because even now, even though it's like, what, 15 years ago, I still watch it and it still cracks me up.
Well, what's so funny about it is, John, that footage was, I think it got up to about 500,000 or million views, and then it was bought off me by NBC. So in a legal sense, I can neither deny nor confirm whether they're real UFOs.
Yeah.
So
but
I cannot say whether they were real UFOs. I cannot say that out loud. So they made me sign a contract that said in perpetuity in all known worlds or future worlds to be discovered. Can I admit that it was either real or a fake? So have a look at the video.
And let's see what we think. Sorry, mate. And the other thing, because obviously, you know, you've got such a wealth of experience, and but what I always loved about you is that you're just silly, man. So you've got this calm, you're the artist, you're the ex-military guy, you're dead straight. But what about when you jumped over the wall at the Tower in London? And,
well, that was just before I went back to the Falklands. That was 2007.
That was tough time.
And I don't think that's coincidence. Yeah, I mean, it was a weird night. I'd been out drinking with Jeremy Beadle, who'd become a friend of mine, strangely enough. And I left him and his wife about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was very, very drunk. And I don't know what did it made me do it, but I jumped into the Tower of London. I was wandering around complaining, where's your fucking security? Anyone could be. I could be a terrorist. Where are I? Suddenly this shot rang out and get down. Oh, fucking hell, this is for real. That's when I sobered up very quickly, but I kept the camera rolling, John. Did you notice?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
You did.
And that same year, about a month later, I broke into Colditz Castle, made a film of that. And then one after that, I did break into Auschwitz, but it's not a funny one, and I will never publish that. But I had some strange things happen in Auschwitz that made me realise I've got to sort my life out a little bit. I can't keep breaking into places, wanting to get caught, I think is what I was doing.
Maybe there's that. Maybe it's that.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it must have been,
How did the comedy come about then? Where did that stand up?
Well, that started in Vancouver in Canada. What had happened, it was a bit of a long story, but of course it involved chasing a girl. I'd met this girl called Zoe in Greece, in Corfu, American girl, and really fancied her. But then I got a job on a boat, and that you can't turn down a job going off to Africa and that. So I did that, and I was forever chasing this girl. And I found out I had her parents' number out in Washington State, and I found out from them that she was now working in a surf shop in Maui, in Hawaii. Okay. Yeah. So I basically set off from. Well, I got to Barbados from sailing across the Atlantic, and I headed up to Canada, all the way across Canada, with the idea was get a boat from Seattle, which is generally where they sail from, out to Honolulu to Maui, and turn up at Zoe's shop. That was my plan. And you probably know this story anyway, but it's ridiculous. So I had my passport, and somebody said to me, get a coloured copy of your passport from a photocopier and send that home. Because you lose everything at sea, it's much easier to get a replacement passport if you've got every page photocopied in colour.
Yeah.
So I'm there about to post it off, and the woman behind the counter said, I'm a bit confused. What are you actually sending? I said, the photocopies of my passport. She said, well, where's the real one? And, I'd left it in a photocopier in Kinko's over the road. So I said to the bloke in front of me, another backpacker, I said, look after my backpack, please. Oh, my God, I've left the passport over the road. I ran over the road. Passport's gone. I wandered around for 20 minutes looking for somebody suspicious and didn't spot and went back to the post office, and that guy had buggered off with my bag, so now I've got nothing. So I thought, well, it's a Saturday. I've got $7 in the world. I might as well just get drunk and worry about it tomorrow. No,
that's it.
Nothing I can do. No point in stressing. So I went to this sort of down and outs place called Gastown in Vancouver. And I was telling this story to anyone who'd listen, that what an idiot I am, leaving my passport in there. And I had a point where I was laughing into my beer so much I kept spilling it, when he got lost. Yeah. And this bloke said, what's so funny? And I told him, and he was a down and out fellow called Den LaBelle, French-Canadian. And he said, that's a great story. You should do that on stage. And I said, how do you mean? He said, there's a comedy club in town called Punchlines. He said, if you did it there, you get a free drink all night. And I said, really? He said, yeah, they have a fridge full of beer for all the open spots, and hardly anyone drinks. They're all a bit nervous. I went, what, 5 minutes of what I just did? You are joking. He went, yeah, you get free beer all night. And I said, well, how come you've never done it then? You lot of drink. And he said, I've always wanted to. So we checked into this sort of down and outs hostel, and he put a notice on a notice board saying, that drunk English bloke lost his passport. I've booked you in tonight at the comedy club. So I turned up at 8 o'clock when it opened. He went on before me. He actually had a very good night, but he didn't feel comfortable on stage. He was homunculoid. He was sort of a dwarf, but he was sort of about 5'5", but his body was all out of proportion. And they laughed at him, not with him, and he felt very uncomfortable. Whereas I went on drunk and wanted to tell that little story and never got round to it. Somebody heckled me straight away, said, hey, tell us a joke, buddy. And I went, sod off, I'm learning stagecraft. And that got me first laugh. And then I started walking around the stage going, can you hear me when I'm over here? This is unbelievable. Can you see me when I'm down? Oh, this is unbelievable. I must come back one day. Oh, this is brilliant. And people said, tell her. I said, no, I'm not going to waste material yet. Blimey. Is this what it's like? And that was it. And the next night I did a Hell's Angels bar where I had a nightmare of a gig, but I still felt confident. Then I did a black nightclub where I was the only white person there. And then on the Friday, it might have even been sooner than that, it might have been a Wednesday. Even on the Wednesday, I did the sort of big club in town, Yuck Yucks, and stayed sober and stuck to my script. And they said, oh, we could employ you. You're good. How long have you been going? I said, about a week. They said, no. Overall, I went, overall, how long have you been going? I said, about a week. They said, but are you not just touring Canada? I said, I've never been in a comedy club. Never been on stage. He said, well, we can sponsor you. Anyway, I got deported in here for not having a work permit. But, I don't know. I was a working comedian. All them people like Craig Campbell and Tom Stade, Pete Johansson, they all know me from those days. In fact, I ran into Craig Campbell the other day and he was telling Stan Stanley something that I'd forgotten about. He sat in this very van getting drunk with me and he said, I never heard Nick repeat a joke. And I didn't for the first 5 months. Every night I went on stage, I thought, once you've said it, it's gone forever. It's out in the ether, it's public property. So every show I did, I wrote new material for. Even when I did TV and I did new material that I'd written that day because I didn't know any different. I didn't know you could repeat material, And
it's that wealth of life experience, but it's also that ability to not care, to just not care, not to be careless, be carefree. That's probably
I got interviewed by the media on this TV show I did in Canada. I'd been going 5 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that. And it was, to find out Canada's new comedian of the year. So Craig Campbell said, you should enter that. I said, well, I'm not Canadian. He said, no, but you work in Canada. You should enter it. So I was just about to go on and there's a film crew there. And this bloke said to me, you like the sound and light guy? I said, no, what do you mean? He said, well, you shouldn't really be here. This is for the comedians. I said, I'm on next. He went, well, you're so relaxed. I went, well, I can't win it because I'm not Canadian, and I don't know if the material's any good. I've written it on the back of a beer can. But the worst thing could happen is they boom me off. There's not going to be a landmine or a sniper out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, I came second. I was like Canada's second funniest comedian. And I was in the paper that next day, and it said that exact quote. You know, it said, Nick Wiltshire seems so relaxed. It's because he wasn't worried about stepping on a landmine if he had a bad show or having a sniper shoot him because he told a bad joke. And that's pretty much how I've looked at it ever since. You know, obviously, you've been there when I've had horrible shows. It does happen sometimes.
Yeah. But you just don't, it never seems to bother you. You just, you know.
Well, it bothers you there and then because you don't want to have a bad
moment
show, you know, but you can't take it out on the audience. It's not their fault, is it? You know, I've had nights where they booed me off, and it's happened 4 or 5 times out of 5,000 shows or whatever. But when it happens, it's horrible. But life goes on, doesn't it? You go, well, I did it last night and they like me. I'll be doing it tomorrow and they like me. So I can't, and I always apologise for it. I never take it out in the audience. Go, look, sorry I wasn't on top form, and I tried my best. I'm obviously not your cup of tea, but the rest of the show is fantastic. Have a great night, you know.
Yeah, and it's
not my fault, and it's not their fault. It just is what it is sometimes, isn't it? You know. Yeah.
And then tell me about the art. Tell me about the art. Where's that come about from? Because your paintings are phenomenal, mate.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I'm very proud of my art, and I've sold 72 now paintings original, so I'm very happy with that. It all started when Maxine got ill. Maxine was going through cancer, and she just said, I really want you home every night. I don't want you off travelling. I couldn't go and do Edinburgh or go, you know, I was always going off on cruise ships or going around China or whatever, you know. She said, I want you at home. That limited the amount of work I could get, which, you know, I had no money. My car needed repairing. I was very lucky, 2 big name comedians. I won't name them because they're modest people, but 2 of them, big TV stars, chipped in and helped repair my car. And one of them in particular, you know who he is, and you know he gave me several £1,000s. He said, that'll get you through Christmas. You cannot be stressing about work and your car when your wife's ill. And he said, don't work, just look after your wife. Anyway, I got bored out my skull, you know. Maxine's going through chemo, she's asleep half the time. And I went up in the attic, and there was a chalkboard there with a little sort of tray with coloured chalks on it. And I looked out the window. It was like June, July, something like that. I looked out the window and I started doing the clouds. And I thought, oh, I'm quite good at this. I remember being good at school, you know, and I was doing these clouds. Then I spoke to a mate of mine called Bruce Williams, who's a really good artist. And I said, what I can't get is straight lines. He said, well, you won't get straight lines with chalk. You never will. It smudges. He said, have you tried pastels? And I went, right, no, never have. Tried pastels. Oh, then I can get such depth of colour. But still had a little trouble getting straight lines. He said, acrylic? I went, right, what's that? He said, it's like oil paint, but it dries quick. And because I'm impatient, suited me down to ground, and that was it. So I did about, well, I think it was 18 paintings. And then one day my wife said to me, what are you doing upstairs? Are you in some sort of porn ring or something? I said, no. I said, you know, I said, I've taught myself to paint, you know. And she went to college and learned. She's got an art degree. She knows about art. And she said, you can't paint. I said, I used to when I was a kid. When I was at school, I was good. So anyway, one day she sort of climbed up the pull-down staircase and she went, oh, are they yours? I went, well, some of them, yeah. And she went, oh, my God, you're really good at it. And I said, well, when I'm painting, I'm just in a world of my own. I can just sit there. I do cheat in one respect, and that is that I use a magnifying glass. One of them ones, you know, you go to a doctor's or dentist and they look in your mouth. I've got one of them with a neutral light in it, like a daylight light. And that's what I do. I paint from a couple of inches away, and if I'm painting a horse or something, I might spend 6 hours painting a horse, you know, but I'll do every bloody hair, you know. And then I'll keep changing colours and adding depth to it. And I absolutely love painting, and I've got no, all my fears and worries in the world all go out the window when I'm painting. It's just me and the world, you know, the world that I'm creating. So I don't know what I'm doing, but
to me, it just well, it's just what I expect from you. It's just the fact that you'll turn your hands to anything. Nick Jones wants to say hello. He saw you on Sunday in Eastleigh, and
oh yeah. So, I remember Nick took a photo together. Yeah,
good lad. What is it then about the painting that helps? How does that? What is it doing for you?
Well, I've got all these. I think I've almost got dyslexic vision, if that's true. I sometimes see things that aren't there. Like, I mean, one of my first paintings was a windmill on the hill just up the road there. And I must have driven past it every day for eight or 9 years and thought it looks like a bloody Dalek to me. It looks like a Dalek. So what I did, I wanted to do it properly. So my wife was in a charity shop and a little gold Dalek came in. So I went up there and set up my easel and started painting. But I had the little Dalek sort of blocking out the view of the actual windmill. So as I'm painting it, of course, I'm getting the same light from the same angle. And it just made sense to me that's what it looked like. And then it occurred to me that Peter Cushing used to live in Whitstable, who was in Doctor Who. And I thought, well, there you go. Call it Who's Mill. And that's it. So, and every time I look at something, we've got these forts out at sea that, they're military forts that stick out. Yeah. Funny enough, I've been out there. Ariel and Jules Holland took us out there once, me and my wife and their wives. The council wanted to show it off or something. So Ariel said, yeah, I'll go if my mate can as well, so that's how it came out. And I was out there thinking, these are weird looking things. And I got back on shore and thought, it's where they invented a diving helmet here. So I painted each of them as different sort of diving helmets. So it gives me a chance to use different paints, like gold paint, brass paint, all these different colour paints. And that was one of my first paintings that sold, and for much more than I expected. And I thought, well, I'm onto something here,
Definitely onto something, mate. Some fantastic work. Do you think then, in terms of, because you've had a lot of ups and downs, man, you've had things that would have broken most people. What is it keeps you going? What's your secret? What's your tip? What do you do?
I read a book when I was a kid called what was it called? The Curious Elf, the Inquisitive Elf. It was a book I read, and I thought it was me. I want to know what's over every hill. That's why I got into motorbikes at a young age. I want to know. You see a track running through a woods. I want to know what's over that hill. If someone tells me about a castle that no one's seen, I'll need to go there. And I'm curious about everything. I mean, I just watch documentaries day and night.
That's got to be I'm interested. It'll be so good for your well-being, man. That kind of inquisitive.
I think so. Yeah. I'm interested in everything, and I think I've got time for other people. So if somebody has got an interest, I can sit and listen to them talk for hours about some strange lake they always want to go to and eventually got to, and now it's in my I've got to go there. I've got to go to that lake one day, and I just want to know. I mean, even in this little camper van, some nights I'm coming back from a gig and I think, well, Maxie's in bed. There's no point in waking her up. So I'll find somewhere. I found a place the other day called the Eternal Lakes. It's in Kent. You can Google it. The most amazing place. It's an old quarry pit that's been turned into a nature reserve. And it's just beautiful. It's like you're in Canada or something. You've got geese, you've got koi carp in the lake, you've got these little huts on the hill, but it's an industrial quarry that's been turned into a nature reserve. And this is the life. And of course, my van's nice. I've got a telly up, got a 24-inch telly up there, I've got internet, I've got a toilet, I've got fridge, So rather than wake her up, I knackered myself out by wandering around these lakes in the middle of the night, taking photos in the dark, thinking, what an extraordinary place. It's only 15 miles from where I live,
And yet you found that adventure 15 miles away. So really, it's not even, and it's about, the feeling I get from you, though, is that you just get on with it, mate. So something that's always struck me.
Life is what it is, isn't it? I mean, I've had osteoporosis for 40 years, so my bones break it. It hasn't stopped me doing anything. I'll still go skiing every chance I get. I still ride motorbikes. But I have to put up with the fact my bones break all the time. God knows, it's probably getting into the hundreds of breaks I've had over the years. All my fingers, my elbow, my skull, my chin, both legs. But I've got to have fun in life. And if I stopped having fun and not taking risks, then what's the point of living? I want to have adventures all the time, and this van gives me that opportunity. I'm choosy about what gigs I do now. I'm earning a bit of money for my art. I don't need to work as much as I used to in comedy. I still like to, but I don't need to.
But that pressure's gone.
Well,
would you say that now? Are you in a good place? Do you think you're in a good place?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Mate,
I love my life.
the last hour has just flown past, mate. It's just gone whoosh. I could talk to you for
blimey,
days.
is it an hour?
Hopefully, I will see you again soon. If you could post any exhibitions you got coming up, anything like that.
Yeah, I'll do that,
Copy
John.
me and stick them on your page and all that, mate. I will keep mentioning you to everyone I meet.
Can I just show you my latest painting? I've only brought one with me. I went to the National Gallery and I saw this painting called the Arnolfini family, and I thought Geezer looks just like Putin, and I wanted to do some war art, so I've done it properly. So that, where is it?
There you go. Wow. Yeah.
So now I've made him definitely look like Putin, and instead of a chandelier, you've got a drone up there.
Yeah. A drone.
And the
blue
war
and
gun
yellow
on outside, blue and yellow, and that's the girl, the pregnant girl who was dead on the on the stretcher. And I've tried to turn it into a bit of art, and that's what.
But you're just starting. You're just, you're just in tune, mate. But I really appreciate your time, mate, and hopefully, we'll see you again at some stage.
Yeah.
So give my regards to the missus, mate, and
I will do. Yeah.
Let's hope we get down that way eventually. Take care, mate. Speak soon.
Cheers, John. See you later. Bye,
Cheers,
everyone.
Mate. All the best. That was the incredible Nick Wilty, who you could talk to for hours, really. What really struck me about him was that as an 11-year-old boy, he saw bikers and he thought, I want to do that. I want to travel. I want to have adventures. And even now at 63, he's just got a van, he's traveling, and he's having adventures. It's almost like it's come full circle. That dream that little boy had, he's manifested it. He's made it real. Just from what I know of him, stuff that he's been through, it would break most people. But it doesn't seem to break Nick. Or when it does, he tells you that he's broken. And then he's very public and very open with his feelings and his experiences. But he also has found through art a way of dealing with things. Here's a little bit of advice there. Have fun and take risks. I think, mate, that's me. That's where I get it from. And again, it's no surprise because he is very much one of the people that I've always kind of, admired and looked up to. And one of the things I guess that I'm able to do each week with these when I meet people is let them have a sense of appreciation that maybe they weren't aware of, because we're all connected in the game of life, aren't we? All connected in the battle of life. He did talk about his own experiences with PTSD, and it's not just people who've been in the military. It can happen to anyone at all, how we experience trauma. But it's not a disorder, it's an injury. And that's one of the things we look at. It's an injury we can heal. A disorder we accept. There's not necessarily going to be a cure, but at least if you are battling something, if you're struggling, you need to know that it can get better. Each week, I ask my guests for their a little tip of something to do. And his tips there, have fun and take risks. I just think just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Some people have got different ways of dealing with stuff. Kev McCarthy said just talk to people. Charmian, have strong views, strong boundaries. Ben was talking about there's always going to be setbacks. James Dowdeswell, be persistent. There's just so many people. John Newton had some great advice for us. Look at the bigger picture. At the end of the day, nothing really matters. And Paul Ricketts' advice, not everyone is going to like you. Don't get bitter, get better. That was great advice from his dad. So if you do know anyone who's struggling, or if you're struggling, you're having a hard time, there's always Mind and Time to Change. I always give them a mention. But there's also Men's Radio Station and Women's Radio Station.com, which have got shows 24/7, goes out all over the internet. So if you do get a chance, do give us a like, give us a tag, give us a mention, give us a comment. It's all going to be really positive. It's all going to be very, very helpful to us as we try to reach bigger audiences and kind of, try to make a difference. It's not all preachy and teachy. We will be back next week, as we are every week, with a different guest. They've got a bit of a tough one to live up to after this week, though, I'm not going to lie. Whatever you're doing, stay safe, but understand you're not on your own. Whatever you're going through in life, whatever battle you're going through, there are always people out here who can help you.
Well, that's the end of another great show. What a brilliant guest that was. I could have spoken to them for hours. Don't forget to check out all the other brilliant shows on the mensradiostation.com website, as well as womensradiostation.com as well. Do subscribe to all of our media outlets, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all those things, but tell your friends. Big thank you to Lost Boys UK, who have provided this fantastic music for the show. Check out my website, happytohealthy.com. We'll be back next week. really do take care of yourself, and remember, you're not on your own. You're part of the mensradiostation.com family. Take care. Good night.